The heart is a vital organ that's located in the thoracic cavity. It's located between the two lungs, a region known as the mediastinum. It's encased within a sac, a membranous sac called the pericardial sac. The wide superior portion of the heart is known as the base, and then the pointy inferior tip of the heart is called the apex. Here's a cadaver shot where they opened up the thoracic cavity so we can see the location of the heart, although we can't see the actual organ because it's encased within the pericardial sac. Before we talk about the wall of the heart or the pericardial sac, let's review what we know about serous membranes. Do you remember what a serous membrane is? It's a membrane that's found in closed body cavities. Given that, do you remember where we can find serous membranes in the body? There are 3 locations where serous membranes are found, surrounding the lungs, surrounding the heart, and surrounding the abdominal and pelvic organs. So here we are talking about the surrounding of the heart, which is why I'm trying to recall what I know about serous membranes. So what do you think about this? True or false? Every serous membrane is a double-layered membrane. So that's true whether it's around the lungs or around the heart or around an abdominal organ. The inner layer of the serous membrane is always described as visceral, and then the outer layer of the membrane is described as parietal. The serous membranes that surround the heart are called the pericardium, and the thing about the pericardium is that part of the pericardium helps to form the pericardial sac, and part of the pericardium helps to form the wall of the heart. So let's take a look at the pericardial sac first. A good analogy for the arrangement of the visceral and the parietal pericardium is the fist going into the balloon, where the part of the balloon that's touching the fist is the visceral pericardium, that is the actual outside of the heart, the organ itself. That visceral pericardium, just like the balloon, is continuous with the parietal pericardium, the outer portion of the balloon. The parietal pericardium lines the fibrous pericardial sac. The airspace in the balloon is known as the pericardial cavity. That would be a fluid-filled space. The fluid is serous fluid, and it's being produced by the visceral and the parietal pericardium. Now that we understand the arrangement of the visceral and the parietal pericardium a little bit better, let's take a look at the pericardial sac. The pericardial sac, remember, is the encasement of the heart. The pericardial sac has 2 parts. The outer fibrous pericardium, which is fibrous, strong, connective tissue, and that's lined by the parietal pericardium, the outer layer of the pericardium. Just deep to the pericardial sac is the pericardial cavity, which is the space in between the pericardial sac and the heart that contains fluid, serous fluid, produced by the serous membranes. Let's finish by taking a look at the actual wall of the organ itself. The outer region of the heart is the visceral pericardium. It's also known as the epicardium. It's simple squamous epithelial tissue that's continuous with the parietal pericardium, as we talked about. Deep to the epicardium is a thick layer of cardiac muscle. And then lining the chambers of the heart is endocardium. Endocardium is also simple squamous epithelial tissue. It's a continuation of the endothelium that lines blood vessels. Let's finish by marking up the notes. The heart is a vital organ located in the mediastinum. It's encased by the pericardial sac. The wide base of the organ is actually the superior portion, and then the inferior tip is known as the apex. The heart is surrounded by the serous membrane called the pericardium, and then there's a strong fibrous encasement that encloses it. So it creates these regions from superficial to deep. The pericardial sac consists of the fibrous pericardium lined with the parietal pericardium. Deep to that is the pericardial cavity. That's the fluid-filled space that contains the serous fluid. It contains the beating heart. And so deep to the pericardial cavity is the actual organ, the heart, that consists of 3 layers. The epicardium is the outer surface of the heart. It is the visceral pericardium. Deep to that is a thick wall of cardiac muscle called the myocardium. And then lining the hollow chambers of the heart is a layer called the endocardium, which is continuous with the endothelium that lines blood vessels.